everybody to the TGAMWGM, that Guy's a Maniac Weekly General Meeting, where we are planning out the next series of content from That Guy's a Maniac podcast. Just before we kick off spitballing some ideas, there's an announcement that I have. We've had a lot of complaints from various people across TGM Towers that people aren't announcing the name of the meetings that they're in before the meetings start. Now, of course, yes, everybody in the meeting knows that they're in a meeting because they've been invited to the meeting, but I must stress that you have to go through the full name of the meeting. If there's acronyms, you have to go through those as well, every single time you have a meeting anywhere in the building.
And just a little addendum to that, is also worth reiterating that you can be found on certain social medias. Like, for instance, in this meeting, we can be using the social media tag at That Guy's a Maniac, all one word, lowercase, for all of the usual social media bits for the That Guy's a Maniac guys.
Yes, thanks, Richie. That's very important to go through those in a very staid way before every single one of these meetings.
And competent as well.
Yeah, especially getting those social tags accurate as well. That's really important. We do that. So, anybody got any ideas for this meeting? TJM, WGM, That Guy's a Maniac Weekly General Meeting.
We've actually poo-pooed a few ideas that came from some of the, I guess, the people around TGM Towers.
Yeah.
So there was one idea for Richie and Farley to do the podcast nude. Now, we always know Richie does his nudes regardless, but I don't know, does Farley ever want to concur and join in with that?
He might do already, but yeah, it seems like a silly idea, given that it's an audio format. Maybe for the next time they do one of the video podcasts?
Yeah, I don't think that'll make it to YouTube.
That's true. Well, maybe we could give it a try, but it's not like the guys can get any less views.
Yeah, exactly. Any other ideas?
So I was thinking about hot cross buns.
Hot cross buns.
Chicken jokes.
And chicken jokes.
Why did the chicken cross the road jokes? And I thought maybe they could do something about a crossover between hot cross buns and a chicken crossing the road.
Or maybe just crossovers.
Hey, this horrible bit is now over.
Oh wow, okay, yes, so today we are talking about crossovers. Yeah.
I think in customary style it's time for Richie's Dictionary Corner. What is a crossover and what other things sit on the crossover smorgasbord that we might need to discuss?
I would say that, I mean, if you're going to use the word crossover, you could go really, really anal retentive and say it's only like a game which actually, fully features rather than has a cameo of other characters. However, for the sake of this podcast, I'm going to say that a crossover is the point where any character from another franchise makes it into another franchise's game, or indeed creates a new game with multiple different franchises. So there's, I think that's fairly broad definition of crossover. Do you agree, disagree with that?
Yeah, or would you differentiate between, I've seen some people talk about this, the difference between a crossover and a fusion? And so possibly that, a fusion is where perhaps you have two different properties, randoms, character lines that meet somewhere unique. So something like Super Smash Brothers, for example, where Super Smash Brothers is its own thing, has its own mechanics. You have lots of different characters from different games in there. versus something like perhaps a true crossover. You know, the Street Fighter Tekken, was it? Where there was supposed to be a Tekken versus Street Fighter versus Tekken. One of them didn't come out, did it?
Yeah, apparently the Tekken versus Street Fighter, or Tekken X Street Fighter.
Yes.
Yeah. Never came out, but it's still in the works. They say it's still being done.
Okay.
But I think they spent a lot of time on Tekken 7. And it's a really big, bulked-out game. It's still constantly getting updates. So.
But those, for example, those would be crossovers because that is clearly.
Yeah.
This game with characters mechanically coming from another game.
I mean, there's definitely different levels of it. Like, if we look at Smash Brothers, which is probably going to be a very, very staple example of a crossover.
Yeah.
However, if you look at the very first Smash Brothers, all it does is cross over Nintendo characters. So that's quite a mild one, and in fact it's just a Nintendo game which just happens to have lots of Nintendo characters in it. But as of course the series progressed, you started getting other people coming in from completely different franchises. You got your Sonic the Hedgehogs, you got your you've got Cloud and Sephiroth, and you've got Street Fighter characters, Tekken characters now in Smash Brothers. Yeah. That is gone from a very mild crossover, which was just having Nintendo characters, to having every character. And so yeah, it's I think you can grade it in those kind of different ways. I think one thing that I did want to mention at the very, very head of this discussion is it's really hard to find a game that isn't a fighting game that's done a crossover.
Okay.
I mean, I know there probably are a few, but I was like racking my brain, and then everything I came to was basically, you know, a fighting game of some sort. And I could list them all off right now. I'm not gonna, because we're gonna talk about them and delve into them. But yeah, it's weird. It seems just like fighting games lend themselves, or people have a desire for, let's get in this fighting game and beat this person up, or use this person to beat other people up. I don't know why that is, why it lends itself to that. I guess having a cameo in a first-person shooter is going to be pretty shit, because you won't even see them. But yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I think maybe it's because the staging or setting of most beat 'em up games, fighting game, is the same, right? So you're looking at them in profile view, and also it's something versus something, so you can slot different things in there. Whereas with other kinds of games, there's a lot more going on, right? If you've got a 3D open world, you can't just slot in a Pac-Man, because then you have to think about, okay, how is this Pac-Man character going to interact with, what's he going to look like when he's jumping, what's he going to do when he's doing X, Y, Z. Whereas in fighting games, it's a little bit simpler in that regard. But also perhaps something about the genre speaks to you're kind of teenage boy, like, who would win in a fight between
yes. Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
Batman or Superman, right? And then you can kind of do this. And
it's the worst crossover possible. Who would win in a fight, Batman or Superman? Come on, mix it up. You had a choice there. Like, you can actually do that in Mortal Kombat. You could do like Batman versus, I don't know. I can't think of a Mortal Kombat character. Fucking hell. Shiva. Why is that the first one that comes to mind?
Yeah.
Why is that the first one?
I mean, I think perhaps in the history of people thinking about crossovers, nobody has said, I wonder who would win in a fight between Batman and Shiva.
I know. What about Raiden? Raiden's like the most famous one.
Like Sub-Zero or Scorpion
Yeah.
or like anyone from. Anyway, before we go on to specific games, and something we've mentioned a couple of times in the blog and probably the podcast now, is with rare exception in gaming, I absolutely love crossovers. There's something special that it does to parts of my brain, and I've never really kind of worked out what it is, but when seeing Smash Brothers, Nintendo Direct about Smash Brothers, and they introduced another character, even if it's a character I don't really care about, right? So I wasn't particularly bothered about the Tekken edition. I think it's great, but not a huge Tekken fan. Don't really recognise the character. Huge fan. But just the idea of you've taken this franchise, which was already a little bit in Smash Brothers, and put it in here, but it's seeing how the character, but also what level you're going to pick, and you're going to have the music coming in. Looking forward to the Tekken spirits that you'll have to fight. It's already out, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And it's getting a lot of love from us as well. We mentioned that in a previous show as well.
Yeah, but there's just something really special about crossover. And I don't know if it's because, again, we're part of this super lucky generation, right? Which had a tiny bit of our life before the internet to kind of know how it's been benefited and ruined by the internet. But also, we were around when video games first moved into the home. And I think a lot of my excitement from crossovers comes from the idea of a younger version of me, and me kind of going back in time and saying, "Oh, you'll never believe, you could play
as Sonic in Smash Brothers."
or
Mario and Sonic go to the Olympics.
Pac-Man
I mean, that's nuts.
versus Mega Man,
Yeah.
or Alien versus you could play Alien versus Predator game. And it's something about that, and then also kind of thinking about you never would have anticipated that would have happened because they're different companies, and there's battery that has to go on in order.
And I guess it sort of also brings back the sort of the football team mentality of because when you were growing up, you were always like, I'm Team Nintendo or I'm Team Sega and stuff like that, and then suddenly seeing those two teams come together finally and produce this, you're just like, oh wow, it's like a super team. And
so it's something that I really love about crossovers, and I guess comics literature kind of led the way. Fan fiction definitely has done, if we can speak that.
Let's not.
And then we've seen it a lot in video games, and then now, of course, we've started to see it in TV and film, right? And it's proving hugely successful. If you consider the Marvel movies, the crossovers to various extents, on a movie by movie, and ensemble movies together, and then also the other things linking in. But there's I'm kind of seeing a backlash a little bit, I think, particularly when it came to the Marvel movies when they're coming out. I don't know if we see it quite so much in video games, but people being kind of wanting a bit more. So there's certainly a formula in when you cross things over.
Yeah.
That no one character particularly gets a time to shine.
No, I think it's another thing, and this is to go on to why I quite like crossovers.
Yeah.
Part of it is seeing that interaction play out. According to whoever did the script, you don't think about that, but you finally get to see Dante interact with, Ryu or with Deadpool.
Yeah.
And you in your head you've built this up to, oh my god, what is the interaction going to be? And I think part of what you get in the Marvel films, and when you get a little snippet of it and you know everybody's going to be together in the films, or even looking at like Thor Ragnarok and the big reveal of Hulk being there for some reason, and then that reaction had to be perfect. It had to be, oh my god, there's Thor seeing Hulk for the first time after going through all of this hell. And then, his reaction is, I know him from work. Yeah. It has to be perfect, and it has to hit the right note, because one, people have already built up in their head what that reaction is going to be. And two, everybody needs to have something that fulfills it in some way, and you're never going to make everybody happy. But Marvel, Disney are doing a really good way of smoothing that over, giving them little snippets. Because if you give them any longer the screen time that they require, then you're probably not going to get a very happy audience,
Yeah, and certainly, particularly in these gigantic, it's something that is a limit in movies and TV, but less so in games, because you've got all the time in the world should you want it.
Yeah, and quite often, I mean, there's beneficial parts here, because quite a lot in games you don't get dialogue, or characters don't have fleshed out characters, in fact. So, like, for instance, let's go back to our default man, Ryu. Do we know much about what his thoughts and feelings and stances are on multidimensional travel? No. Or how he would react. So you've got a lot to play with there.
And again, that's sort of what makes fighting games very nice. Crossovers.
They don't.
As you've mentioned, almost every episode, the only interaction you need is that before or after fight interaction.
Yeah.
So just a couple of lines per different matchup is all you need. Although saying that, I would love, and such a tropey and to talk about. But sometimes you would like, what if these two characters weren't going on a MacGuffin hunting journey or through some world-saving thing, but were just sat in a bar.
Yeah, no, I know. It's just had a little talking heads moment, that was one thing. I think I mentioned this about Tales of Vesperia. I really liked that as an RPG, because what it had is, as you were going through the game, you were killing monsters and all that sort of stuff. But once you hit like certain goals, you would get a little cutscene unlocked. You had no visibility of what these goals were. They were sort of in-game mechanics of you had to have killed, 100 of X monster. And then a little pop-up just happens, an event, where you just have the characters bantering together. He's like, yeah, we've been doing a lot of fighting of these things. Yeah, I wonder what they taste like. And I always wondered why they've got blue and funny horns. And you're just like, this is cool. They're having this dialogue. You see them interacting with each other. And I think that is marvellous. And I think it makes the series just having those little talking head moments, little skits. In fact, that's what they're referred to, skits, in the actual thing. And it just fleshes out the characters, and it's not them, acting heroic in front of, some boss character, or going overly dramatic about, the end of the world, or some giant monster or meteor heading towards the world, or whatever. And it is just, I'm really interested in ham sandwiches. How do you make such good ham sandwiches? Oh, well, the secret is blah, blah, blah. And it's that sort of shit and flavour that really, really, fleshes out.
Yeah.
I've gone off topic.
No, but you'd love, it's not crossover, although there are crossover games. It's why I think you'd love the Fire Emblem games, because
they do that as well, yeah.
Your oh my god, what is it? Isometric strategy game? How do you call those? RTS? The RTS bit of it. If you partner up with somebody or stand next to them, or you do some healing magic or whatever, you build up your relationship with each other.
Yeah.
And then again, once you hit certain levels, you're rewarded with little conversations. After a battle, you're rewarded with conversations, and I think it's something either people really like or they don't. So some people just want to go back to the RTS, and you can just hammer the buttons to skip through them. But with you on this is that those sort of become an extra reward. So you're not only building a relationship between your characters and getting if you like in battle boost. You're just curious to be like, oh yeah, I want what would the reaction be between this 1,000-year-old witch who's trapped in the body of a 9-year-old and this giant
Japanese
knight.
tropes.
This giant. Yeah, exactly. But I wonder how this Japanese trope what would this Japanese trope have to say to this Japanese trope? It's a really nice device because even though it's like a little conversation, it can
It's so
feel like
flavorful.
there's a broader world here, and these guys, they are spending a lot of time with each other in between marching from one place to the other,
Or just grinding enemies. So, yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Are they just not saying a word to each other for the 6 hours that we've just spent grinding this one spot?
Exactly. Like nobody's like, so do we have to go and fight?
Yeah.
We just fought 67 of these enemies in a row, and we're still running around, looking for another one. Has the leader of the group lost it, or
But there were so many triggers. There'd just be like, if you spent over like 1,000 gold in one go, then suddenly this skip would happen. Hey, I think we're spending our money, too much, and then all that sort of stuff. So much fun, yeah.
And then I guess before we move on to talking about specific games, there are kind of strange crossovers like what's one of my examples? Like Lego, for example.
Yeah, I mean Lego Dimensions is fucking nuts.
Well, yeah, because that's a crossover between a crossover between a crossover. Because I guess the first crossover is let's just do whatever it might be. Batman or Marvel or Indiana Jones, but in the medium of Lego, right? And how does that translate? Again, we've talked before about how in the earlier games, when they would sort of retell the stories of the films or the comics that they were parodying, but they do it in a very Lego style, right? So a famous beheading scene or when someone gets their hand cut off would be head.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And or the hand coming out of the hands. And then you've got Lego Dimensions, which is not only a crossover with all those franchises and Lego, and also
all of the franchises, Scooby-Doo and Back to the Future, just nuts, man. Yeah.
The Warner Brothers verse.
Right, so speaking of games, I'd like to get a big, massive one that we've already touched on away. And that is, I don't know if I've ever talked about this on the podcast before, Mortal Kombat.
I've never heard of that before.
So Mortal Kombat, the Midway team, or whatever they are now, they obviously have big love for the DC universe, and I don't know if this was a reaction to Marvel versus Capcom, but you got Mortal Kombat versus DCU,
which is a genius pairing, right? Because Capcom is kind of the polished king of fighting games. Debatably, but up there certainly. And Marvel is sort of the same when it comes to the comics world. And then both DC and is it Midway? No,
it's not Midway. It's whatever Ed Boon studio is now. Yeah, NetherRealm Studios. Yeah.
Yes, there we go. So both Mortal Kombat and DC are like both the dirtier, not quite as successful, playing to the teenager, playing
Edgy, gritty.
being gritty, edgy, bloody, gory,
Bloody.
slutty. So there's a good pairing.
Yeah. But then, I mean, Mortal Kombat not only have the DC universe, and for all of their games, they will have some kind of DC cameo of some kind, or vice versa. Any of their Injustice games will always, they've got Raiden or Sub-Zero or Scorpion or whoever turning up for whatever reason. I mean, that's the thing. And I just really wanted to sort of mention that because Mortal Kombat have also done that crazy crossover in 10 where they just brought in like every horror movie character they could think of. So you got Leatherface, Jason, Alien, Predator. I think you even got Freddy in a previous one as well. And yeah, it was just like they've got this horror movie link, and in the latest one they've got RoboCop, Terminator, and again these were all, I'm practically rattling off comic crossovers that you used to get when we were younger as well. You used to have things like RoboCop versus Terminator and Alien versus Predator. But yeah, it was they've had a lot of cameos, and I think they stick out the most in my mind, at least, for having the craziest selection of characters. And I mean, I think when Mortal Kombat 9 brought in Freddy, nobody could see it coming. I think they just brought out that re-release with the guy from The Watchmen who played Freddy, and then hey, we're bringing Freddy into the game. Like, why? Who thought Mortal Kombat and who thought Freddy? Nobody. But it works and it's a thing.
Yeah, it's I don't know what it is. Maybe it's. I'd love to dig into who owns the rights to all these things, because all these horror characters, they come up a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if it's just there's some original creator out there who's like, my slush fund's running a bit low, so I'll just ping some emails around and get a little bit of cash because there's a I don't know, My Little Pony Freddy Krueger crossover thing, or Mortal Kombat or Dead by Daylight or whatever. Yeah, these things all come, and then they kind of build up enough of a modern day kind of following or interest, or maybe at the same time, then release a film. At the same time, we got there's a new RoboCop film, and then RoboCop's appearing everywhere, and then Evil Dead crossovers were happening, and then there was a series, and then the new film. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I'd like to get to the bottom of how these things kind of happen. Periodically happen.
I mean, I would say that it's probably just flavor of the month helps, definitely, and I think with Warner Brothers Studio, and NetherRealm Studios being very, very similar, I think it's a very easy thing for them to do. It's just like, we want to have a character. Who can we have from your backlog, of Warner Brothers characters? Which clearly includes Alien, Predator, Terminator, RoboCop, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess, why is it horror? Why is it horror? But I guess it's because
it's Mortal Kombat, it's gore, it's blood.
I guess
that's fair.
You couldn't have other films don't really have that one character, that one icon for the series that's kind of recognisable that you don't mind being whatever shot up or chainsawed up on the screen.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, I can't imagine there's been any Ferris Bueller videos. I mean, probably countless references to it, but yeah, you're not going to see him.
Yeah, that's true.
Saying that. I'll have to check. But also, again, it kind of feels catered to us, right?
Yeah,
Our generation.
definitely.
Because
I mean, there's so much of it.
Millennials who are like,
They might as well slap a 90s soundtrack on there as well. Yeah, that intro to the, Blade in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You say the fuck is. Young people today. No idea who these things were. Or
they don't know how good they've got it.
Didn't know good they got it, or just that you'd have to wait until Channel 4 was. The film came out in the cinema, then 2 years later it came out on video, and then 2 years later you could catch it on Channel 4 at 3 o'clock in the morning. And not just stream all the Nightmare on Elm Street in one night for free.
Yeah.
Okay, that's Mortal Kombat. I'd like to talk about some Japanese crossovers. I don't know if it's a thing in Japan, but they seem to like the idea of crossovers.
I mean, I think it's a very
something.
Yeah,
well,
X is the big thing here. So I think
They
there is definitely a love of crossovers from Japan because that X thing is just so universally recognized. It took me a while to understand that was crossover, or that meant crossover. But yeah, so we get versus instead. We get Marvel versus Capcom, when normally it'd probably just be Marvel X Capcom,
Yeah. And they do it with which we're seeing a little bit of now, but they do it with everything. So fashion brands, X, Pokemon.
Well, no, I mean the crossover fashion brands is not just from Japan. That is a massive thing at the moment. It is nuts. For about the past 5 years, you get these ridiculous fashion brands doing crossovers on trainers, on bags, and things like that. And they're just limited edition runs. Like, I was looking for a pair of trainers. I ended up going down this mad route of Adidas cross Reebok pump. So it's like two retro brands coming together. I thought, oh wow, that's quite cool. And not just that, Adidas cross Reebok pump cross Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
So, it's the pattern on the side of the cars, the green with the red stripy bits on the trainers. And it's just like, this is nuts. But yeah, apparently it's a big thing in fashion. I was speaking to my girlfriend who pays attention to fashion. Yeah, bags have been doing it for ages, and it's just like you get a designer of some kind of thing, whether it's an artist or an architect, and you just put them as a brand on your shoes. It's mental.
But I think I don't know, I could be wrong. I think these things have been happening in Japan for a long time.
Okay.
But now seems to be hitting the mainstream, I guess. This you get the same with I don't know, a restaurant with a band, or pop-up whatever with a video game. And some of them are nuts. So some of the kind of more, I guess, slightly strange ones are Pokemon Conquest, which is Pokemon meets Nobunaga's Ambition.
Yeah, okay.
It's a very good DS game of all the things you cross Pokemon over with. Crossing it over with whatever feudal era. With Pocket Monsters. Then the recent Tokyo Mirage session, which is re-released on the Switch, which is great because it was on Wii U beforehand. Anybody played it, but it's fantastic. Which is kind of a three-way crossover between Fire Emblem, Shin Megami Tensei, and idol culture.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was gonna say, getting the idols into everything as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, it works surprisingly well. And as long as you don't pay too much attention to the story, why is the spirit of Marth channeled into some singer, Japanese boy singer, or whatever. And then what was the one I had? Oh well. But yeah, I like those really kooky ones. Expect. And I guess it's a question of like what makes a good crossover, right? Because there are there bad crossovers?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there are. I mean, like as much as I regard it as quite a good game, the Mortal Kombat versus DC, that first one that came out on the 360, people hate. They hate it. It's like, what is this? I mean, obviously they softened it down. They didn't have like all of the Mortal Kombat gore and blood because it's the much beloved DC characters. You can't decapitate them and stuff like that. But I thought the story was really, really cool about the two universes merging. So yeah, super excited about that one. But yeah, that was quite badly regarded, and I'm sure there's a ton. I think I did a quick Google, and there was like loads of like Cartoon Network games that just have all of the Cartoon Network characters. Nickelodeon's done something silly as well. It's just, there are definitely bad crossovers.
Well, I think you forgive them a little bit because they are crossovers. So you never expect a crossover game to be good.
No, it is. It's basically like taking how bad a movie tie-in is and then squaring it. So I suppose when you have cameos in those games, like if you're playing Mortal Kombat, it's just nice. You don't buy it because it's got Terminator in it. It's just a nice to have. Oh, the Terminator's in it. Let's do some fighting with Terminator.
Yeah.
But when it actually has on the box, Marvel versus Capcom, there we go. They're perfect examples of bad, what's it called, crossovers. Marvel versus Capcom 3, one of the worst, rated games, and then Marvel versus Capcom Infinite, which is generally a worse game than Marvel versus Capcom 3. So yeah, those are two bad games.
Yeah. There's some mad ones again, depending on the crossovers.
You've got your Tatsunoko one as well.
Yes, that was the one I was going to mention. Yeah, Tatsunoko versus Capcom.
I don't even know what Tatsunoko is. I was about to. Another thing that I wanted to mention is fighting games love to do crossovers with each other. And I know we kind of touched on that, but you do. You get fighting games, especially even the Japanese ones, like BlazBlue Cross Tag has like crossovers with about 3 other fighting games. And the Guilty Gear series is bought over other smaller fighting game characters and things like that, and bring them in and all that sort of stuff. That's a very common thing to happen. I don't even know what Tatsunoko is. It could be an anime series that have just been put into the Street Fighter game. I have no idea. Tell me more.
It was I think it's an animation studio.
Oh right, okay. That wasn't too far off.
No, and so you just had because it was Capcom, not Street Fighter. I didn't know who half the Capcom characters were either. It's a very strange thing. It's a Wii exclusive. It was a time when a lot of things weren't getting localized outside of Japan. And for some reason, this one was. Despite the fact that I think many of those characters had real low...
Zero relatability to anything.
Yeah. Apart from perhaps one or two which anime fans would definitely have known of. But it was kind of good because, it certainly got me to look into some of them because, why does that giant silver robot turn into a lighter? I don't understand. And having a look. One of the one of the coolest early crossovers, I think, before brands were just like, brand versus brand, was the Psycho Mantis fight in Metal Gear Solid.
No.
So in the original Metal Gear Solid, there was a psychic boss that you fought, and these spoilers for.
Oh yeah. Of course, yeah. You put the controller in a different slot.
Yes, but Psycho Mantis would read other Konami games off your memory card.
Yes.
Which was mind blowing at the time. Had anybody actually had any Konami save games? Unfortunately, from memory, didn't read off International Track and Field. Kind of a lot more slightly obscure Konami games at the time. Then, have you ever played the Captain Rainbow games?
Nope.
Okay. Me neither.
Okay, let's move on then. What the fuck's Captain Rainbow?
Captain Rainbow, again, I think it's one of those ones that never got released here. But it's a bit like, oh my gosh, what's the name of the series where is it all the Hanna-Barbera characters? Hanna-Barbera characters?
Yeah.
There's a lawyer.
There's a lawyer.
Harvey Birdman, is it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Similar to that.
Okay.
Premise.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it now, and it's got like Birdo in it. I don't know.
yeah. And I think that's one of the games where Birdo'sgending.
No, Jet Set Radio. Is it? I've no idea. Okay, cool. Weird. Mental.
Yeah.
Never heard of this.
Well, look, I think it was Wii only as well, and I don't know. I think it did come out in the EU. Oh no, it didn't come out anyway.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
Yeah, that's fun. Did you know that Joker from Persona 5 is in Catherine Full Body?
No, I did not know that. Oh, I've not played Full Body. I only played Catherine Classic. I don't know. What is it called?
Oh, just the normal one. Or the second one. Who knows?
It's Catherine without the third Catherine in there.
And then there was one. Sweet Tooth from Twisted Metal.
Yeah.
Was in Everybody's Golf 2.
Everybody's what?
Golf 2.
Oh, okay. Wow. Because he's a nice, wholesome character to have.
Yeah.
That is nuts, man.
In Everybody's Golf 2, which is published by Sony Interactive. Sweet Tooth and the guy from Medieval.
Oh, right, yeah, I know. The one you're talking about. Yeah, the skull.
In the later ones, Jack and Daxter and Kratos, who got everywhere for a while.
Yeah, fucking Kratos. Why is he not in Super Smash Brothers?
Well, because he's in PlayStation Battle Royale.
Oh, of course. Yeah, which we're not going to mention in this crossover episode.
Yeah. No,
yeah.
No. Did you played Lightning Returns, right?
Yes. For roughly 4 or 5 hours.
Okay.
A game that I would really love to play, But I got really stressed out. I think I've mentioned this before. We've mentioned before that we've mentioned things before.
Yeah.
We're saying we've mentioned before many times. Like,
Yeah.
by the way, did you know we've done other episodes of this podcast? You should go and check them out. We've mentioned this before, so if you want more details, go back to episode blah blah blah. No. Like what I was going to say was, yeah, there is a time-based factor to this. So there is, you have to do X amount before the time ends, and you just die, and then you have to reset. The roguelike addition to the Final Fantasy 13 series. Now, I love the Final Fantasy 13 series as much as everybody says, oh my god, 20 hours tutorial. It's a big, long story, and Final Fantasy 13-2 expands on that, takes it to the future and to the past, and makes that story whole, and then explains, this intro to why you have these beings that live for so long, how they've changed their lives, and how they're, it's cool. It's really, really cool. I would like to play Lightning Returns, but I feel like, one, I missed the zeitgeist, and two, I was so stressed out playing it, I wasn't enjoying playing it. I feel like maybe it's best just to watch a long play of it or something. Yeah. But yeah, it was quite cool when it first came out, because they had the promotional costumes for her. But not only that, you actually had, was it Louis Vuitton? Used her as a model.
Okay.
So she was actually modelling Louis Vuitton bags. They did an outfit for her in game and things like that. But yeah. Did I ruin and shit over your point?
No. I mean, after that ramble, you could have just said yes, I played it. You could get a Lara Croft outfit for Lightning.
Yeah, and amongst many other things, you can get Cloud as well.
Yeah, but that's not better crossovers. Final Fantasy didn't count like crosses over itself.
Yeah, I suppose.
There was, I mentioned it earlier, there was a Harvey Birdman game which included cameos from the cast of Street Fighter. I'll put it out.
Oh, okay, cool. So, Street Fighter is in the Hanna-Barbera universe.
Yes.
Oh, that's quite interesting.
That even is Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah, they are.
Kingdom Hearts, of course.
Yeah, I mean, the game is just a big crossover. It is quite cool. As much as we say within the same universe, the Disney universe, it's actually quite cool to see that crossover exist. So, yeah, it's also cool, and then just slam in a bunch of Square characters as well. Yeah.
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 The big one.
I mean, there's one fairly big one we haven't touched on yet.
I was going to say... Oh, there's three have just come to mind.
Okay, great. Fantastic.
Mario and Sonic, the Olympic Games.
Yeah.
The Sonic All-Star Racing.
But yeah, of course, again, it's kind of expected. That's just basically a Sega game, and it's just got Sega characters in it. And you could see that they were fucking scraping the barrel. The guy from Shenmue is one of the characters, and you're just like, for fuck's sake.
I don't think that's scraping the barrel.
Alright, okay, but yeah, there's quite a few that are just like, is this even a Sega game? I don't even know what this game is. What did it come out on?
No.
Master System. Why doesn't he look all pixely? Alright, okay.
Yeah.
Alex Kidd. Yeah.
One of the Golden Axe guys, something Panzer Dragoon. What I quite liked is the different levels that were based on those. Even if I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing. Everything was very alien to me with that as well. It's just not as recognizable. As much as they probably think something else, it is not immediately eye-catchable or understandable or particularly relatable.
Of course, Mario Kart itself is now a crossover event.
In what way?
In that you've got Inklings, I think there's Pac-Man in one of them.
Oh yeah, okay, fair enough.
You've got Link. DK's always been in it.
I know. Again, it just feels like. I mean, it doesn't feel like that big a crossover because it's Nintendo Universe already. Do you not feel that?
No, I do. I think it's good.
Okay.
You know, how cool was it to be whizzing around Hyrule Castle and having rupees instead of points?
Yeah, okay. I'll give you that. Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah. Mario vs. Rabbids was the other one that I had in my head a long time ago.
Rabid Rabbits, yeah.
Yeah. Which nobody really expected.
No, I don't think anybody asked for it either.
And nobody asked for it. Excellent game. I cannot stress enough how good it is. And the kind of full game DLC to it is very good as well. And hyped for the new game that's coming out.
What's it called?
I don't know, Mario versus Rabbids. Now we're going to space or something because that's all everybody ever does these days.
I love how you call it Mario versus Rabbits.
Rabbids. I'm saying Rabbids.
Rabbids. Ah, right. Sounds like you're saying rabbits. Rabbits with a cold.
No, Rabbids.
Okay, never mind.
These days. Mario and Rabbids.
Mario versus Rabbits. Okay, cool. Yeah. Can we talk about my game now?
Go on then.
So, there's another big crossover series. We started off with a little game, which was Namco X Capcom. Again, the X thing.
Yeah.
And it is basically a tactical RPG. And it spawned off another couple of games called Project Cross Zone and Project Cross Zone 2 on the DS. And these are amazing, awesome games with huge crossovers. Like, huge. So initially it was Namco X Capcom, but then they just brought in the roster to pretty much any and every genre. You got Sega characters in there, you've got, like, as in ridiculous Sega characters. So you could have your Golden Axe guys, but you also get Mr. Sagato in there as a character. You have the Capcom characters, including people like, Dante and Ace Attorney. And then you also have your classic ones, like you've got Axel from Streets of Rage, and you've got Namco characters such as Tales of Vesperia characters in there. And yeah, it is so expansive, and it just takes from almost everything. It includes Fire Emblem characters and also the Valkyria ones, the World War II ones that you like. Is it Valkyria Chronicles?
Valkyria Chronicles,
Yeah, it's got them in there. And basically it becomes a big mishmash of, shit, why are we here? Oh, we have to destroy these characters so that we can, save something from, the big bad. And it becomes a long interaction of all these characters, and every bit of dialogue that they have with each other is golden. It's great. It's fantastic. You open up one of the fights and they'll have that bit of dialogue with each other. If they should have some kind of dialogue, they will have that, and it is so packed full of everything like that you could want, and plus the game plays really, really well. I know that you for some reason think it's a gacha game. It has no gacha mechanics at all.
Yeah, it's just a very boring gacha game with big numbers.
It doesn't have any gacha in there at all. But it's a fighting game where you have to do a little bit of timing. So you don't actually do the fighting. You set people off doing combos, and then you have to get the timings for when you bring certain people in. And doing the good timing means that you do better damage, and you can, get the enemy that you're fighting down quicker. And of course, there's other synergies to put in, because when you do their special moves, which are glorious, flashy things, and they all combine together on the screen, and they interact, and they'll sometimes even say something when they're sort of, all fighting versus this one thing. It's so cool, and you just mess about with your team comps just to have that bit of fun. Think, you know what? I'm gonna send Dante out with, that cyborg woman from, I forget what it is. But yeah, I mean, like you can send Dante out with like Tales of Vesperia people.
Xenoblade Chronicles.
Xenoblade Chronicles. That's it. Yeah. So you send them out together, and they talk. They'll have an interaction. It's like, I'm interested in your sword. Is it cursed? And then Dante will be like, yeah. I actually pulled it out of my chest. So that sort of fun banter back to call upon these games. And of course, there are some characters. I don't know Xenoblade Chronicles, but the character is so well done that you're just kind of like, I want to know more, and I want to, I kind of get the story of what you've gone through, and like, yeah, I can't emphasize that. I would call this the pinnacle and the king of crossover games, purely because it does have absolutely everyone else in there. It's completely nutty, and I would love to see a Project Cross Zone 3 in some fashion, whether that happens or not. Madness, but those are great games and real pleasure to play. They don't look a lot of fun. I know that you were kind of, what is this gacha, big numbers, no idea, but when you're actually getting into, right, okay, so we've got to click this at just the right time, so when Dante does that, boom. I don't know why I keep going back to Dante as an example. I think I was very happy to have him in there. But yeah, you can have like Chun-Li and Ryu were two characters, in there, and you had Felicia from the Darkstalker series.
Famously, most of the Darkstalker characters have more games than their own series.
Yeah. But yeah, Project Cross Zone. It was cool, and like when you had people who were like typically bad guys, like the guy from what's it called, from Tekken, Mishima, and you team him up with someone like I don't know, one of the bad guys from Tales of Vesperia, or Jill from Resident Evil. There would be some kind of, oh, you're a bad guy, I'm going to arrest you, or something like that. It's just like that sort of interaction. I don't know. Again, like I say, I don't think anybody could dissuade me from putting that one as the king. And I know that you probably have your own view of never want to play or see this, but I can't recommend it thoroughly enough. If you're into crossovers, which you seem to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I completely forgot that in Sonic All-Stars Racing Transform,
yeah,
the guys from Team Fortress 2 were in the Steam version.
Oh, okay.
And Wreck-It Ralph.
Wreck-It Ralph was in it.
Yeah.
Wow. That was quite forgettable.
And some guy from the Yogscast. Any final last to shout out crossovers before we wrap this up?
There's a lot of. There was a game that I bought many years ago. It was for the GameCube, and it was an import game. It was called Battle Stadium DON. Do you remember me talking about this?
No.
There is definitely a blog post that I did on this one as well, because I was super excited about it. But the DON stands for Dragon Ball, One Piece, and Naruto.
Yeah,
So it was basically 3 anime. Yeah, I think this might have been Project Keep Anime off the front page.
It was. Yeah, I'm just looking at the cover art of that game, and
Yeah.
put it all bloody back.
But yeah, I spent something like, I don't know, 80 quid on that game, and then there's an import tax on top of it and stuff like that. And then it's like I had to use a special disc to allow me to even play it. And then when I played it, everything's in fucking Japanese, and I couldn't do anything with it. So it was kind of like weird that I wanted to own this game so much.
Yeah.
And it's basically a crappy Smash Brothers with the characters from Dragon Ball, One Piece, and Naruto. Yeah, but they've kind of done it again. So they have not Project Cross Zone. They have Jump Force.
Yes. Yeah. I remember that.
So Jump Force is basically all of the Shonen Jump comic book characters, because that's where they all originate from. Just sort of doing their fighting thing. I think it got slated for including lots of DLC and contentious characters. But yeah, like Jump Force is a continuation of Battle Stadium DON, I think, in that sort of fashion.
How many Gokus are there? That's the measure of these games.
I would say there's probably only one Goku in there.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Soul Calibur. We never talked about Soul Calibur.
Yeah, Soul Calibur had some cool ones going on, and oh my god, Sophia was in something else.
Yes, she was.
She was in a Warriors game.
Yes.
Warriors Orochi 3 Ultimate. I'd be surprised if you or I had played. I definitely haven't.
Warriors Orochi. I might have it. No, I don't. I'm joking. Pay 80 quid for fucking.
Yes, but the Soul Calibur games. It was kind of cool because back in when there were 3, I mean, I guess there still are 3 platforms in contention. Each crossover was bespoke to the platform. So Link was in it in GameCube.
Yeah. And then you had
who was in it?
Spawn. It was Master
God.
Chief and Master
Spawn.
Chief.
Spawn lost out. I mean, the Xbox guys lost out. Then there was Darth Vader and Yoda and
Yeah. And the guy from Last Jedi, Star Killer or whatever his name is.
yes. And then there's an Assassin's Creed one, wasn't there?
Yeah, Assassin's Creed. He was in. I was the shit. Soul Calibur, which was a base game of 2 characters. Absolutely out of this world. So bad.
Don't worry, I am secretly worried about something.
I mean, the latest one's fine. Why are you worried?
When's Soul Blade 2?
Yeah, exactly. Bringing it back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's all I really wanted to mention for crossovers.
I think one of the sad things about crossovers
Yeah.
which we are seeing more and more these days, is because obviously there's a licensing agreement. It means most of those things have a hard time limit on them. So you will never see them again. And and they will be unplayable unless you have the original platform and format and downloaded DLC.
Yeah.
So yeah, something a tinge of sadness. But some of these things you just have to kind of be there to experience. And then they will just disappear forever once that licensing agreement runs out.
100%. Yeah.
And then there was some nonsense around one of the Marvel vs. Capcom, wasn't there?
What was that?
Do you remember this? Where essentially you couldn't get Jill and Schumer.
Yes. That was Marvel vs. Capcom 3. You had to have had the downloadable content ticket in the game, and then you couldn't get Jill and Schumer on the store for whatever reason. Oh god, it was an awful game. It wasn't even worth it. There was no story around the characters. That's why it was so shit. There was you get to play as these characters, and they look so pretty. The gameplay is pretty solid, is quite nice, but there's no beginning, there's no ending. Everybody fights Galactus and there's no ending story. There's no nothing. Ugh.
But then when they did add the story, the next one, it's fucking boring.
Well, it's because they fucked over the game. I think I told you about this before. It's like,
so boring.
You have 4 buttons on your controller, but only 2 of them do anything. One is attack and one is jump.
It's like weird face Thor, and then Ryu's like, "Oh, should we go and? Oh, there's clones, there's space clones of us all, and shadow versions of the space clones." And I was like, "Well, me and Spider-Man will go this way, and you and Wolverine go the other way." It's just dire.
Yeah, it's just I've already stopped listening, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I have an Infinite, and I'd like to see the story, but it's just finding that time to even find a desire to play with it. I mean, I told you about my first sort of dabble with Infinite, and they changed the moves, and like, why would you do that? Why would you simplify the moves? Ugh. Meh.
Final shout out for me is the crossover between Metal Gear Solid 3 and Ape Escape. Probably one of my favourite crossovers ever. It's just a mini game.
Oh, okay.
Where you was playing as Snake and you had to capture the little guys from Ape Escape. What happened to Ape Escape?
Yeah, that's one of those ones that just sort of passed me by.
Yeah, it's a very good game. We've not really seen it.
Yeah.
And on other monkey-related news, super happy with Super Monkey Ball celebration. Yeah. Who was one of their Sega characters? Was he in Gacha Game? Aye.
It's not a Gacha game. And I'm going to say yes. I mean, there were so many characters in that game. All the Resident Evil characters. It's just in Virtua Fighter is nuts. Yes, I'm going to say I was in there.
But he's a Sega character, man.
Yeah, they had Sega characters in there.
They did,
yeah. They got the Yakuza guys from the Yakuza series. Space Channel 5. Ulala's in there. It's nutty.
She's been in more games than she has. Her own games.
Yeah.
Great.
What happened to Space Channel 1 to 4?
Hey, well, maybe the technologies didn't exist to realise the vision for this game. So
yeah. So I've got one last thing for you, Farley.
Yes.
It's a question.
And
I bet you haven't thought about it.
Yeah.
It's not the one that you think it is.
Okay.
What crossover would you like to see?
That's what I like to see. That is a good question. I don't know. I've never really kind of put dream matches together. I like, I can't, when the speculation is rife around Super Smash Bros. What characters they're going to have, they should have this. And then the cycles of leaks and fake leaks and someone from this message board said this and they got this one fact right. I've just never been particularly interested or engaged in that side of it. So yeah, I don't really know. I think it would probably be bringing back series that I just missed.
Yeah.
So something like
Yeah.
Legacy of Kain versus Silent Hill.
So you wouldn't want Pokemon set on Tatooine or like Star Wars cross Pokemon or anything like that?
No. Pokemon in Mario Kart would be fun. Would be good.
That feels so limited because it's Nintendo.
But only if you had like all 800 on the character
Yeah.
So if you want to select, Zamazenta or Zacian, you have to scroll down the screen
Yeah.
for about 20 minutes. Oh, there's Yoshi. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
Pokemon in anything, as long as every single Pokemon is
Yeah, okay.
same character.
Pokemon. I like the idea. I liked that the Pokemon one that you mentioned where it went back to feudal Japan. But
Yeah.
I want a straight up Dungeons and Dragons plus Pokemon, X Pokemon game. Like Dragon Age meets Pokemon.
Yeah.
Or yeah, because they haven't done that. They haven't done like sort of wizards and shit and Pokemon.
Yeah, not really. There were a couple of films that were set in the weird time.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think they did release like a tabletop RPG for babies, for children.
Yeah.
Based on Pokemon. But yeah, no, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Either that or some really gritty setting like I don't know, Call of Duty Vietnam and Pokemon.
Yes. The Call of Duty series doesn't have enough
No,
Pokemon in it.
doesn't have enough Pokemon in it.
I know.
Or Pokemon Snap
Yeah.
cross Call of Duty, and you're playing a war photographer who is just having to capture the most harrowing war scenes with Pokemon in it. For points.
Call of Duty with Transformers in it. Like,
Oh yeah, that'd be kind of
yeah,
cool.
the giant mecha turning into trucks. I suppose it's kind of like that Titanfall one.
Yeah,
Just sort of play with that, but get some cool
Yeah.
Transformers. Transformers
maybe
Devastation
just-
was a good game. That is
Maybe-
basically Bayonetta X Transformers.
yeah, maybe Titanfall Transformers would be good.
Yeah.
Now, and you wouldn't really have to do very much. Yeah, good question.
I've got another one for you.
Yes.
It's not a question. We established this and I got it completely wrong the other time.
Yeah.
Ask me something, Farley.
That
It's
guy's,
not a question.
that guy's a maniac.
Make a statement. Why did he bite me?
Hey.